So I've yet to meet any couple who is struggling in some area of their marriage who does not also say they're struggling in the area of communication. So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 quick and simple steps or tips on how you can communicate better in your marriage. And it doesn't matter if you're a novice or you think you're terrible at communication, you too can implement these 3. That's today on RelationShots. Hey, welcome to RelationShots. If this is your first time hanging out with us, don't forget to download your free guide to intimacy. You'll see a link in the description area below. This will help you address emotional, physical, spiritual, and recreational intimacy and give you some tips on how you can increase connection in your marriage. We've also got a ton of other resources, whether it's free masterclasses or retreats, our membership, lots of stuff down there below. So if you need some help in your relationship, check out all the info in the description area. All right, let's talk about communication. So 3 simple tips that anybody can implement in your relationship. And remember, before we jump into these, one of your main goals when trying to bring up something that is delicate or maybe is normally causes conflict in the relationship, one of your goals is to not trigger flooding in your spouse. Now, some of you may be like, you think that's easy. You haven't met my spouse. I get it. But I just need you to remember that if they get flooded, whatever happens after that is not going to be successful. So we've always got to keep that in mind. So 3 tips you can implement for better communication today. Number 1 is use I statements. And I know what you're saying already. This is so common. This has almost become a marriage cliche, right, to use I statements. But I need you to understand why this is important, right? So if nothing else, I want you to do an experiment this week. I want you to go find somebody, not your spouse, so anybody else, kids, friends, family, siblings, coworker. If you're going to do it with a coworker at work, watch your volume. But I just want you to walk up to them and point at them and with some elevated volume be like, you, and then just see how they react. See what their face does and then ask them, how did that feel when I said you really loud and pointed at you? And I promise, unless they're numb or drugged, they are going to tell you that their heart rate got a little bit elevated, they got a little bit tense, and that, my friend, is why we should not use you statements, because it almost always immediately elicits a fearful, defensive, physiological response. So, the key to I statements is that I statements are only communicating the speaker's feelings and experiences, and they are not criticizing your spouse. So it's not so much the pronoun, the I or the you. The idea is you want to communicate in a way that is not coming across as criticism. And I statements will help you do that. That's why they're important. Tip number 2 is stay on topic. This should be obvious, but most couples I know who are struggling to communicate do not do this, right? I know it can be tempting because you're thinking, listen, I can barely get my spouse to sit down, look me in my eye, and listen. So when I finally get that chance, I got to unload everything I got because I don't know when I'm going to have that chance again. I'm here to tell you that's not a successful strategy. Nobody can respond to a whole bunch of stuff. So you need to avoid the tendency to bring up all kinds of back information to support your present frustration, because all that's going to do is overwhelm them and cause them to not hear what you're trying to communicate. So stay on topic. You forgot to take the garbage out. The mortgage wasn't paid. The kids' lunches were not packed. Dinner was not ready when we said it was supposed to be ready. Whatever the topic is, stay on topic and avoid the tendency to bring in all kinds of supporting evidence to prove to your spouse why your concern presently is valid because you have all this back evidence. That's not going to help you prove your cause, nor is that going to help them to actually hear what you're trying to communicate to them. And the 3rd key is avoid triggers. I said this at the beginning, I'm going to say it again. Avoid triggering your spouse, because when they get triggered, they get emotionally flooded. And when you get emotionally flooded, you cannot be rational in a conversation, which means it's not going to go well. So every one of us has stuff. Nobody, I say nobody, escapes childhood without a few scars. And those scars end up leading to areas of sensitivity or triggers in our life. So when you're communicating with your spouse, you want to avoid these triggers. Psychologists sometimes call these enduring vulnerabilities, meaning they're never fully going to go away. We can heal them, and we should be doing the work to heal them. If I get triggered a ton, I need to do the work to heal that so I'm not getting triggered all the time when my spouse is not trying to trigger me. But part of good communication is for the speaker to know, especially in a marriage, what your spouse's triggers are and avoid those triggers so we can avoid them getting flooded and not being able to hear us, right? So if you know your spouse is sensitive to being excluded because they were not included in their home growing up and they felt marginalized, then when you want to communicate to them that you want to go out with your friends this weekend and not them, you need to do that in a way that maybe is a little more sensitive. The encouragement sandwich, right? I love hanging out with you, but I was wondering if you would mind if I went out with my guys on Saturday night, or if I went out with my girls on Saturday night. Would that be okay? As opposed to, I'm going out with my friends Saturday, just FYI. That's going to be more triggering if you know that. If you know that your spouse feels like they're triggered whenever they feel lectured or told what to do because they didn't have a voice in childhood, you should not probably begin a conversation with "what were you thinking?" or "you need to fill in the blank," because they're probably not going to hear it. So we have to know what those are. And one of the ways that we can improve our communication is when you are having a conversation with your spouse, I want you to picture their enduring vulnerability written across their forehead so that it's always in eyesight and it's always top of mind for you, and you need to avoid triggering whatever that thing is, and they will be better able to receive whatever you are sharing. So those are 3 quick tips. Use I statements, stay on topic, and avoid triggers. If you focus on these, they don't take a lot of skill. They just take a little bit of intentionality. I promise the chance that your spouse will be able to hear, understand, and receive what you're sharing with them will greatly increase. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Again, if there's any resources in the description area below, we can help be a part of your relationship journey. We'd love to do that. And until next time, we'll see you right back here on RelationShots.